I thought about how to break down what was like everything that led up to the strike, and we were on strike for 3 weeks, and I look back and I think we were preparing for it for a full 2 years. 2 years of rebuilding our union and building member engagement. We always in the back of our minds that we were probably going to have to strike to get a fair contract this time. And with a real understanding of like we should have done this sooner, and this time we are going to. So a few years ago, our union was, a mess, and I'm not going to go into any details, it's the usual issues that everyone who's been involved in unions or really in any kind of human endeavor has encountered. We had leadership who saw their jobs as to keep peace in the workplace, to not rock the boat, and also leadership that just loved management, just was besotted with them. And we were also part of a composite local. We were one of 16 units in a merged local, the only unit with our employer, and that our members felt very alienated from the union, as the union was this big thing that happened somewhere else. So it's in that context, that's the backdrop to our last contract that we made a major concession. Union leadership pushed members to ratify and really actively scared people away from striking. I was brand new to the library at the time, and I was able to identify a few allies, and we really tried, but we were unknown and we were just a small group of people. And the leadership was really, intent on getting ratification. Then, as that concession played out in our working lives, people were extremely angry and felt really taken advantage of. And union leadership said, well, you voted for it. Like, if you didn't want it, why did you vote for it? So there was a lot of anger at the employer, and there was a lot of anger at the union as well. And people definitely didn't identify with the union. It was like the union, not our union. So I worked on observing the dynamics and looking for allies. And I got on the labor management committee, and a few of us began sowing the seeds of an internal movement. And we were trying to channel anger at that concession, but we were also trying to cultivate a belief that wasn't inevitable, that a different outcome was possible. And, looking for every opportunity to do that. So the internal movement, I was on the labor management committee, and it was completely ineffective. Like it was a joke. Management loved it. It was nothing, just totally weak. So we got a lucky break, a breakthrough came, and I saw, not to go into ridiculous detail, but I saw an opportunity to make a change to that. And we took a different approach to labor management and got a lot stronger. And at first I was kind of like dragging people with me, but we immediately saw a difference. When we went in with strength and went in prepared, it had an immediate effect in how management treated us. And that gave our labor management team so much more confidence to be strong, and it's kind of synergistic. So and at the same time that we started strengthening labor management, we started a move to separate from the merged local. So the separation process began with a series of informational talks at all different locations in our library system. And it became a very powerful tool for member engagement. We thought it was just to talk about the benefits of separating as opposed to staying part of the merged local, but it became kind of like our little road show about our vision for a different union. And it was also a showcase of new leadership. So people were able to be like, oh, wow, like we haven't seen this before. So that became like our big focus was these separation, these informational meetings. And our members came out in very large numbers. At the time, it was the largest vote we had ever had, and voted overwhelmingly to separate. I think it was like, 98% or something voted to separate. And then it was a huge, huge, huge project, getting a charter and doing all the things to build a new local. But because of that, we were able to elect entirely new leadership. And we would have a meeting with the new team where we'd be like, oh my God, look, we did this. We had a team who was like extremely competent and engaged, but also had the same vision of what our union should be and how we should deal with management. So the new leadership focused on two things, and this is what we did for the last, let's say, of those 2 years, let's say 6 months was separating, and a year and a half of communication and member engagement. Lots and lots and lots of communication about what was going on in labor management, what are the issues that people are telling us about, what are we doing about it. It's probably the number one, it's probably the single most important thing in everything that I would say tonight, is tons of communication to our members. Past leadership held everything very close to them, and no one knew what on earth the union did. And how can members feel engaged if they don't even know what's going on, if they don't even know if people are fighting for them? So our renewed strength at labor management and our new strength and our new communication just snowballed. Members heard we were being strong. They wanted to be they felt more engaged. We could tell them more about what was going on at labor management, and all kind of worked together. So we would report all the highlights of the labor management meetings, and people had no idea, it felt like the first time they had ever heard this, that we're discussing this, you told us this is an issue, so we're talking about this. So in that context, we went into bargaining, and it was not always easy because there were a couple of people on the bargaining team from the old guard. And so it was always, and you don't want to be perceived as some kind of in a personal rivalry with someone. You want to be open to all ideas, but you also know down that path what happens, like major concessions. So it was a lot of, having to navigate these waters. And in bargaining, we took a totally different approach in bargaining. With our members, we communicated with them as much as possible. And as I'm sure everyone here knows, who knows about unions, that most bargaining teams don't tell their members anything. Our members were they were educated in this belief that until the very, very end, you don't hear anything from your bargaining team. When I started sharing information, everybody went crazy, and because they thought I would be accused of bargaining in bad faith, and the whole thing would be thrown out, because that's what they believed. People went nuts, and they were like, oh, you can't do this. And I was like, I totally can do this. And kind of help people see, what is bargaining in bad faith? What does that mean? This is what I'm doing. It has nothing to do with that. And, I didn't share every twist and turn and back and forth from the table. It would be insane to do that. But I would send regular updates. Something actually Maureen O'Reilly from 4948, Toronto Public Library Workers Union, I kind of patterned myself after something she had done, bargaining bulletins, and I would send them out after each, if we had a single day of bargaining, I would send it the next day. If we had 3 days, I would send it on day 4, and kind of just say this is what we're looking at, this is what we're fighting for. And I was very open with them about the employer's attitude towards us at the table. And they didn't know this. Our members did not know that how disrespectful the employer was, that the employer was trying to shred apart our whole contract, that if we didn't go in there with strength, we could lose everything. We could have just completely crap jobs at the end of this, for those of us who still have good jobs. So the updates were it was more for process than for information. It was really just an engagement tool. And at the table, we said we were going in with new strength. CUPE had a Canada-wide no concession bargaining policy, and we were like, why does that even need to be said? That's so kind of ridiculous that you even need to talk about that. But we took the attitude that we still have a contract. We're still covered under our old collective agreement until either there's a strike or lockout or we have a new contract. So what's the rush? We don't have to agree to anything we don't want. It's on them to give, not on us. They have to give in if they want a new contract. We'll just take as long as it takes. And we also just said, our little code for this in the bargaining team, we said, reject the pie. last contract, it was all about the pie, you know? If you take this pie, if you take that over here, then you can't have it over here. In other words, playing people off each other. This is how much money we have. If you spend it in this place, you can't spend it in this place. We were like, you got to get more money, or you can't, you know, that's it. Like, you need more money to offer the kind of library services you want. You need more money, so get a bigger pie, or we're not talking about it. So our thing was like, it takes as long as it takes, and we are not accepting gains for one group at the expense of another. Like, that was our main focus. And then being really open with members as much as we could. And we found a real synergy, a real snowball effect with that as well. So we also had a bit of luck. We had quite a bit of luck, I would say, but we were planning for the longest time to maneuver ourselves into the position that when we were in the legal strike position, it would be right before our summer programs would begin, at the busiest time for the library. We thought about March break, which is also a super busy time, but we weren't going to be ready by then. So we just did whatever we had to keep it going, and then we kind of slowed down at some points, and then some points we speeded up because we wanted to get to the no board report. We did whatever we had to do. We worked backwards, there's the 17-day countdown, so we were like, okay, this is the day we have to strike, So somehow we ended up outmaneuvering them. And because of all this communication and all this member engagement, by the time we were ready to take the strike vote, our membership was pouring in, ready to vote. I mean, I never saw them like this. I had the night before the strike vote, I had the worst, it was the only time I really let myself have a lot of doubt and fear. What if we've come this far and our membership doesn't let us pull this trigger? We go back, we have nothing. We lose everything. What is gonna happen? I think they're ready, but what if they're not? And then we had 3 meetings set up because we work shifts, so to give maximum accessibility. And people just started pouring in, and people were like, can I just vote now and leave? I don't need to hear anything. Everybody was just, and I could tell as I was speaking to the first meeting, I could see all the faces and all the energy in the room, and I was like, yeah, they're gonna do it. And it was huge. We had the biggest turnout we'd ever had, and it was a 96% vote to strike. And the thing that we had always assumed, the thing our team was most afraid of, is that we have full-times, we have part-time, and then within the part-time we have our pages, who are our lowest paid workers. And we always felt we needed to really keep the full-time involved, because the full-time is never going to vote to strike for part-time issues. So it was very clear to us that the final offer from the employer was just enough, what they thought was just enough to keep the full-time from striking. So I was able to say, this is the offer, and it's not awful. If you're full-time, it's not awful. I'm not going to tell you it's terrible. But we truly believe we can do better. We've pushed them all along, and now we feel we can't do any better at the table, but we feel we can push them further. So it turned out that 2 years of member engagement and all this, being very honest and transparent about what the employer was asking for and how the employer was treating us, I underestimated our full-timers. They were so ready. There was a little something in it for them, but it was really mostly for the part-time, and everyone knew it. Everyone was like, we are doing this for everyone. It was an amazing thing, because I never would have imagined our membership would say or do that. So so it was we had something approaching unity for the first time we had ever seen, which was very exciting. And there was also a lot of people with high seniority or people about to retire who so much wanted to do this before they left. But they said, we should have done this years ago. Why didn't we? Now we finally are. And that's amazing. They were like, we almost did this year, and then that happened, now we're finally going to do it. So it was there, it was waiting to be tapped. So the strike itself, we had 4 goals. No concession, a living wage for our pages, who were making just pennies above minimum, some improvement for the part-time contract, which is really bad, and the largest increase possible, and the same increase for everyone. And we got them all. So, yeah, so. So we didn't go nearly as far as we wanted to with the part-time contract, but we did win a couple of small improvements for the part-timers. And what we did more than anything, we fought off 2 major employer proposals that would have just ruined their working lives. Like, it was bad enough, but the employer was trying to get more. And that also made everyone so angry. Like, really? Like, you have to do this to your part-timers? Like, who are more than 50% of our membership? 56% of our members are part-time. And it was partly, like, that anger at the employer proposals definitely propelled our strike. So fighting off those concessions is, in a way, improving the contract, because it was going to get much worse. And we were already telling everyone that the next focus, like, we got the pages, the $15 an hour, and the next thing is, like, the next bargaining round is some paid time off, like, if it's not already mandated, some paid time, like paid sick leave for the part-timers. So, so the strike. So I was thinking about, like, why, I don't know, maybe everybody knows this already, like, why the actual strike was successful, like, why we had such a good 3 weeks and were able to, like, we were still on a high note when we went back. Morale was still really high, and we were really, there was some luck involved. Our employer just handled things, like, really, really badly. They refused to speak to the media, which was like, it's like so amazing. So they tried to have me sign an agreement that I wouldn't go public, and my CUPE rep was taking the paper. I was like, I'm not signing that, and he was surprised, and he looked at them across the table like, I can't control her, Oh, it was so crazy. Previous bargaining teams had always agreed to not be public until after ratification. What is that? So, so we worked the media as much as we could, and they actually refused to talk to the media. So I'm sure some of you saw, we had news stories that were like the whole thing was us. Like, they would take it right from our website, and at the end there would be like, so-and-so said in a prepared email statement, like so they handled that really badly, and that was really good. And I think, like, library workers, people are sympathetic towards us, and our demands were very modest, and when they found out the conditions that people were working under, like, the public was very supportive. But we were also able to put our demands in a political context that didn't exist the last time. That not that team would have done that, I don't mean to say that, but we had this social context of, like, the fight for 15 and unpaid sick leave and the presenteeism and what that does to our workplaces, and precarious work and income inequality, and all that stuff is in the social discourse more than it has been in a long, long time, and we were able to use that to propel our issues forward in a way that I don't know that we ever would have been, So, and we did, we just really, really focused on keeping that communication up all throughout the strike. Like, we had morning pep rallies, and after every night I would send updates. So I would share, things that we were on different picketing shifts and in different locations, but I would hear everything. So then I would share it with everyone to help keep morale up, and just sending positive news and about the donations we were getting and any kind of other support we were getting. And it made a really big difference. And I answered every member question every day, no matter what. We listened to and considered and responded to every single suggestion. And a lot of our members have never organized anything before, and they've never been part of anything like that before. And their suggestions were extremely elementary. Like, of course, we thought of those months ago, but it's just really, really important not to be like, oh, we did that already, just go out, So we listened to everyone and responded to everyone, and told people, like, to come forward with suggestions, because we can't think of everything, and you may have, like, great ideas. So, So we had, like, we had a lot of support from CUPE National and CUPE Ontario. Like, really, I'm extremely pleased with how people supported us. And when I saw the effect of like CUPE Ontario gave us a big barbecue, and the OFL came and did a big rally, and it had a huge effect on our members, like who had never, I think most of them had never considered themselves as part of that larger movement, part of anything larger than our little unit. So once we saw the effect that had, we reached out to groups to keep special events going. And the strike team, the strike leadership team, we picketed Monday through Friday because we all have to work weekends as library workers, so we were like, take the weekend off. So on Saturday mornings, the leadership team and whoever had kind of emerged as a leader during the strike, we had a big breakfast meeting and debriefed about the week that had just passed and planned the week ahead. And at week 3, we were about to start weekly general membership meetings. Instead of picketing one day, we were going to have a meeting because we were starting to worry about morale. And then we never got there. We were able to get back to the table and get a resolution. But so, and we had a huge amount of community engagement. Like we just constant flyering and talking to people and those one-on-one conversations and asking the public to call and email the city. And you know how it is, like the employer tries to act like you're having no effect, like not accept that, like emails are, inboxes are so full, like mail is bouncing. They've put 311 on this, like instead of all the calls to the mayor are now getting routed through 311. Like, why is that? You know, and we have a couple of members who have family members who work in the city, who work for the city of Mississauga, so we heard a lot of stuff, you know, and I was able to say, like, you may think you're having no effect, but people are going crazy, like they are totally going crazy, and we have that with actual proof of it, you know. And I have to tell you, if you had ever told me, ever, that we would see our members linking arms in front of the executive parking garage, standing in front of it while cars were trying to come in, and half of them like with noisemakers and tom-toms, you know, beating drums and screaming and blowing whistles and standing there and blocking the garage to traffic, I would have said you were just completely insane. No one at the Mississauga Library System is ever going to do that. Now they all talk about it as like the highlight of they're like, oh, when can we do that again? It's so much fun. So the tangible gains we made were, I mean, it's just absolutely thrilling. And I feel like my whole life of getting $15 an hour for the pages, you know, if I never did anything again, I'd be so happy. So, but the intangible gains we made were, you know, even more wonderful. The change in our members' attitudes, in their confidence, in their self-images, it's like textbook socialism. It's like people were so changed by this shared struggle. So I was so moved by all the, like we have a very active closed Facebook discussion group. So many people were, like there had been such an outpouring of emotion and solidarity and expressed by email and in our Facebook group. And I just collected a ton of them and made this giant post from it on our website. And picked out some of our favorite. Actually, Ellen helped me do this because to me they're all my favorite, like every word. I would have to give you like an 18-page document, all the wonderful things that they said. But we just put some together because it's, I think you'll agree, it's like to remember to come from a context where, I don't know, the union was just this thing, it just took money out of your paycheck, and what did you ever see for it? You know, especially if you were part-time. Oh my God, if you were a page, you're making minimum wage, they're deducting a union dues, and your work is just crap and it never gets any better. You know, to go from that to people who like miss picketing, like, oh, my days are gonna be so empty now that I'm not picketing and I'm only working. It was just amazing. So I think you'll agree when you read it. I've been kind of blown away by people's response, like that people want to hear about it, and all these people are asking me to speak, and I'm telling our members that too, that like you made huge news, like you have no idea the kind of news in the labor movement, and oh my God, in library unions, like you did this, and people are really proud of themselves, and well, they should be. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to hand these out, and I guess we're going to watch the video. Thank you.